When they actually penetrated this small door, they found a hidden room within the pyramid.
Egyptologists are very much fond of saying that pyramids are tombs and that they have been robbed at some point in the past.
For thousands of years, pyramids were believed to be tombs. But what if there was more to it this entire time? An AI analyzed every scan and measurement and uncovered a pattern that behaves like a heartbeat.
A team of engineers uses a remotely operated camera in an attempt to discover the true function of what is believed to be an air shaft.
Who built a monument that still resonates across millennia, aligned with river and stars? And if it was meant to influence the living, who shut it down, and what happens if it wakes again? AI's assistance in Egyptology. In March of 2025, a research team made a claim that sent shockwaves through the world of archaeology. They said the Khafra pyramid at Giza was not just a monument of stone, but a marker for something far larger, hidden below. What made this exploration intriguing was that the researchers did not set foot in Egypt or even touch a single grain of sand from the region. Instead, they looked down from orbit. Using satellites operated by companies such as Capella Space and Umbra, the team fired radar pulses at the Giza plateau. The method, known as Doppler tomography, allowed them to scan deep beneath the surface. Professor Malanga compared it to an ultrasound, except this time the waves were radar, and the body being examined was solid rock. Granite, the dense stone used to build the pyramids, carries sound faster than air or water. By treating radar signals as sound, the researchers claimed they could make the stone behave as if it were almost invisible. Malanga said that, under this method, granite became more transparent than glass. After the transmission, AI was used to capture the returning echoes from underground and reconstruct them into three-dimensional forms, filtering out noise and removing human bias, so the team argued. What emerged from the data was far greater than anyone would have imagined. Beneath the crushing weight of the Khafra pyramid, the model revealed a vast hidden system. Near the base, 5 distinct structures appeared. From them, 8 perfectly vertical shafts dropped straight down, like enormous stone wells. According to the analysis, these shafts plunged nearly 648 meters into the earth, far deeper than the pyramid is tall. Around each shaft, a spiral pattern wrapped downward, resembling massive staircases twisting into darkness. And still, that was not all the images revealed. Far below the limits of what the strongest signals could clearly resolve, the AI produced something even more unsettling. 2 enormous cube-shaped chambers appeared in the depths. Each cube measured roughly 80 meters on a side, a volume comparable to that of a large cathedral. They sat in complete silence, sealed in darkness, untouched for thousands of years. The researchers insisted these were not vague shapes or visual artifacts. The structures appeared repeatedly, captured from different angles and at other times. The machines agreed. The shafts were genuine. The spirals were real. The cubes were real. Together, they formed what the team described as a vast underground architecture, a buried counterpart to the pyramid above, hidden for more than 4,500 years. Engineer Biondi said this discovery was an extension of a peer-reviewed study published in 2022 about the Great Pyramid. The difference, he explained, was scale. This was the same phenomenon, but vastly larger, and that was what made it disturbing. If the pyramids were only the visible tips, then something far greater lay below. Dr. May took the idea even further. He linked the findings to ancient texts, pointing to the halls of Amenti described in the Emerald Tablets, and to passages in the Egyptian Book of the Dead that speak of deep chambers and vertical wells that guide light and water from above. His implication was clear. These were not legends, he suggested, but memories, records of real places. Technology had finally caught up to them. The team then addressed the unavoidable question. Could this be natural? A strange trick of geology? Professor Malanga was firm. The angles were too precise. The repetition of spirals and shafts was too consistent. He argued that chance alone could not explain such deliberate geometry. However, the purpose of the structures remained a mystery. One theory proposed they were massive support systems, anchoring the pyramid to the bedrock and preventing it from sinking over time. Another researcher studied the spirals, the shafts, and the giant cubes, and remarked that, taken together, they resembled part of an enormous machine, something like a resonant coil, echoing Nikola Tesla's visions of wireless energy. Whether the comment was a joke or a moment of hesitation was never clarified, but the moment the story broke, the pushback began. Within hours, established Egyptologists stepped forward, rejecting the claims and pointing to what they called fatal flaws in the team's methods and conclusions. And just as quickly as the discovery shook the world, the controversy swallowed it whole. What makes a discovery? In modern science, a real breakthrough does not begin with an announcement. It starts with peer review, where anonymous experts examine the data, test the methods, and challenge every calculation. Only after a discovery survives that process is it shared with the public. To Egyptologists, the decision by Professor Malanga's team to release their findings without review was not just unconventional, it was a serious warning sign. It meant the methods had not been independently tested, the data had not been opened to scrutiny, and the conclusions were presented as fact without the safeguards intended to catch error or exaggeration. At the center of the claim was a technology known as synthetic aperture radar, or SAR. The researchers asserted that their specialized use of SAR combined with Doppler tomography allowed them to see through hundreds of meters of solid stone. Imaging specialists responded with a blunt reminder of fundamental physics. SAR satellites are potent tools for mapping surface features and objects buried beneath shallow layers of sand. However, the energy signals they employ cannot penetrate dense, dry limestone and granite to the depths the team described. Dr. Sarah Parcak, a world-renowned space archaeologist who regularly uses SAR data, stated the matter plainly: SAR cannot see through rock, full stop. Professor Lawrence Conyers, an authority on radar imaging, described the claim as a dramatic overstatement of the technology's capabilities. Experts argued that what the AI was likely detecting were not hidden chambers, but signal interference, geological layering, or raw digital noise, patterns produced by the software itself rather than structures revealed by it. The claim also directly conflicted with everything already known about the Giza Plateau, based on decades of rigorous research using validated techniques. International teams have employed methods such as muon tomography, which relies on cosmic rays naturally passing through stone, to search for voids within the Great Pyramid. These careful peer-reviewed studies have identified small, likely structural spaces, but nothing even remotely resembling a city descending 648 meters underground. The physical geography of Giza further undermines the idea. The water table, the natural level of groundwater, is very high across the plateau. Any modern excavation near the pyramids rapidly fills with water. The notion of vast, dry, pristine chambers existing 1/3 of a mile below the surface, far beneath this known water table, contradicts the site's fundamental physical realities. Dr. Zahi Hawass, former Egyptian Minister of Antiquities, underscored this point, stating that the pyramid rests on solid bedrock and dismissing the Bologna claims as entirely incorrect and baseless. Scrutiny of the researchers themselves further eroded confidence in the project. The leading figure, Professor Corrado Malanga, is not an archaeologist, but a chemist known for extensive work on fringe topics involving alien abductions and supernatural experiences. This background cast a long shadow over the interpretation of the data. It suggested a tendency to view ambiguous signals as evidence of the extraordinary rather than exhausting conventional explanations first. Archaeologist Dr. Flint Dibble noted that the claim appeared to disregard the accumulated weight of more than 200 years of archaeological study, favoring a compelling narrative over the realities established by fieldwork and material evidence. The consensus within Egyptology was not cautious skepticism, but outright rejection. An extraordinary claim, the existence of a hidden underground metropolis, demands extraordinary evidence. The Bologna team offered none that could be independently tested. No raw data sets, no peer-reviewed publication, only press conference visuals and declarative statements. In science, the burden of proof rests squarely on those making the claim. Without verifiable, reproducible evidence, the story remains just that, a story, a digital ghost tale conjured from shadows, interference, and static. So if this AI revelation collapses under scrutiny, what does anyone actually know about the true purpose of the pyramids? The true purpose of the pyramids. Built during the Old and Middle Kingdoms, these colossal structures were designed to protect the body of the deceased pharaoh for eternity, and to serve as the focal point of the royal funerary cult. This was not speculation or a belief passed down through legend. It was a practical, demonstrable fact embedded in their design. From the earliest step pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara to the smooth-sided giants at Giza, every pyramid contained, at its core, a burial chamber. For the Great Pyramid of Khufu, built around 2600 BC, this meant a long and perilous journey inward. After navigating a descending passage cut deep into the bedrock, one encounters an ascending corridor that climbs dramatically into the heart of the pyramid. This passage opens into the Grand Gallery, a breathtaking corbel-vaulted hall that feels less like architecture and more like a sacred avenue. At its end lies the final destination, the King's Chamber. This chamber, a perfect rectangle constructed from massive, finely polished blocks of red granite quarried more than 500 miles away, contains a single object, An empty granite sarcophagus sits within it, slightly wider than the doorway leading into the room, proving it was placed there during construction. Khufu's body, along with any gold, masks, or jewels, was looted by tomb robbers in antiquity, but the sarcophagus remains, immovable, undeniable proof of the chamber's purpose. It was a vault, a majestic, impregnable, multi-million-ton safe built for a king's remains. Yet the pyramid was far more than a secure container. In the ancient Egyptian worldview, death was not an end, but a transition into an eternal afterlife where the pharaoh would reign among the gods. For this transformation to succeed, multiple aspects of the soul required protection. The Ka, a person's life force, or spiritual double, remained bound to the physical body. If the body decayed or was destroyed, the Ka would perish, and eternal life would be lost. This belief gave rise to mummification, the meticulous preservation of the body, and explains why the pyramid existed at all. It was a fortress for the mummy, shielding it from time, nature, and above all, human thieves. It was the ultimate insurance policy for immortality. The pyramid also functioned as a mechanism to propel the king's soul skyward. Another aspect of the soul, the Ba, often depicted as a bird with a human head, was believed to travel freely between the tomb and the afterlife. The pyramid's shape was deliberate, not aesthetic. Many scholars interpret it as a representation of the primordial mound of creation, the first land to rise from the chaotic waters at the beginning of time. By being entombed within this form, the pharaoh was symbolically returned to the moment of creation itself, granting him rebirth. Others view the pyramid as a frozen ray of sunlight, a monumental ramp upon which the king's soul could ascend directly to join the sun god, Ra. In this sense, the pyramid served as a divine launchpad. To sustain this eternal purpose, the Great Pyramid was never meant to stand alone on a silent desert plateau. It was the active center of a vast industrial and religious complex, a city for the dead that depended on the living to function. Abutting the eastern face of the pyramid stood the mortuary temple, where a dedicated priesthood carried out daily rituals for centuries after Khufu's death. Food, drink, and incense were offered to nourish the king's Ka. These were not symbolic gestures. The priests believed the spirit consumed the essence of the offerings. A long enclosed causeway, its walls likely covered in intricate reliefs, connected the mortuary temple to a valley temple at the edge of the Nile floodplain. This was where the pharaoh's body first arrived by boat in a grand funerary procession. The entire complex functioned as a spiritual engine, with the pyramid as its core. Surrounding it was a necropolis, a city of the dead, containing smaller pyramids for Khufu's queens and rows of flat-topped tombs, known as mastabas, for his most important officials. In death, as in life, proximity to the king meant power. In 1954, an extraordinary discovery added another dimension to this purpose. Sealed within a rock-cut pit at the southern base of the Great Pyramid, archaeologists uncovered the disassembled yet perfectly preserved timbers of a 143-foot-long cedarwood boat. This was no symbolic model. It was a fully functional vessel, elegant and seaworthy, later reconstructed and housed in its own museum. Known as a solar bark, the boat was intended for the deceased king's use in the afterlife, either to sail with the sun god Ra across the sky or to journey through the underworld. The pyramid provided the dwelling. The boat provided passage through eternity. The evidence for all of this lies not in speculative radar images, but in the stone and paint left behind by the builders themselves. While the main chambers were stripped bare long ago, the most compelling proof imaginable remains hidden in the structure. In 1837, a British explorer named Richard Weiss, using gunpowder to force his way upward through the pyramid's core, discovered a series of 4 small relieving chambers above the king's chamber. These cramped spaces, never intended to be seen again, had been sealed for more than 4,500 years. On the massive limestone blocks inside, painted in red ochre, were quarry marks and informal hieroglyphic graffiti. These were administrative notes left by the work crews themselves, bearing names such as the Drunkards of Menkaure, and most crucially, royal cartouches containing the name of Pharaoh Khufu. One inscription famously reads, "The gang, the white crown of Khnum Khufu is powerful." This was not later vandalism or tourist carving. It was contemporary paint from the 26th century BC, applied by a worker marking a block destined for the king's eternal tomb. It is, quite literally, the builder's invoice. Additional confirmation comes from papyrus documents discovered at the Red Sea port of Wadi al-Jarf. Dating to Khufu's reign, these records describe the logistics of transporting limestone from the quarries at Tura to Giza. They refer to the king directly and name an inspector, Merer, who oversaw the shipments. This is not a myth or speculation. It is routine administrative paperwork that reinforces the historical and functional narrative written in stone. Knowing why they were built raises an even more staggering question: how? The scale of the project required not just pharaonic will, but an army of highly organized labor and ingenious logistics. The Lost Village. In 1990, near the Sphinx, American archaeologist Dr. Mark Lenner and his Egyptian colleague Dr. Zahi Hawass made a discovery that would change our understanding of the pyramids. Beneath the sand lay a vast settlement, a city buried for millennia. The site, now called Haid el-Ghurab, the lost city of the pyramid builders, spans more than 30 acres at the base of the Giza plateau. It is the best-preserved labor complex from ancient Egypt, dating to the reigns of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, the kings who built the Great Pyramids between roughly 2550 and 2490 BC. This was no slave camp. It was a planned, highly organized city, built with precision equal to that of the monuments it served. Wide avenues divided the settlement into sections. Long galleries, 30 meters in length, housed workers in neat rows, perhaps 40 men per gallery, sleeping on raised mud brick benches. Nearby, industrial bakeries produced thousands of loaves daily, while breweries held vats large enough to ferment nearly 4,000 liters of beer at a time, the workers' standard daily wage. The workers' cemetery, south of the Great Pyramid, silenced the last echoes of the slave myth. Simple but carefully constructed tombs contained skeletons lying on their left sides, knees slightly bent, facing west toward the setting sun. Small offerings, jars, pottery shards, and necklaces of carnelian beads accompanied the dead. These were not the burials of enslaved people. They were the burials of citizens honored for their labor. Bioarchaeological analysis revealed that the workforce came from diverse regions: the Delta, Upper Egypt, and Nubia. Farmers, artisans, and seasonal laborers traveled to Giza during the Nile's annual flood, when their fields were underwater. Inside the galleries, pottery fragments bore hieroglyphic inscriptions, team names, slogans, and even jokes, such as the Drunkards of Menkaure and the Friends of Khufu. Material evidence paints a portrait of a state-run enterprise operating like a small city with centralized supply chains. Boats delivered limestone, granite, and copper along the Nile. Donkeys transported water from nearby wells. Records from Wadi el-Jarf, a Red Sea port, show ship manifests coordinating the transport of stone over hundreds of kilometers. Ongoing research from the Ancient Egypt Research Associates, AERA, continues to reshape the picture. Drones and ground-penetrating radar reveal hidden walls and storage complexes beneath the sand. In 2021, a new trench exposed animal bone deposits that indicate large-scale meat production sustained for decades. Seasonal rotation, aligned with the Nile's floods, maintained the workforce. The workers were more than laborers. They were participants in a spiritual enterprise. To serve the pharaoh was to serve Ma'at, the cosmic balance. Their sweat was an offering. Their city, a temple without walls. Bakers, brewers, doctors, and artisans worked in harmony. Their labor organized under captains and royal scribes in 10-day shifts, an early prototype of a centralized national workforce. Haid el-Ghurab grew and evolved in phases, expanding as pyramid construction progressed. Residue analysis shows beer flavored with honey and medicinal herbs, while inscribed ostraca record bread and beer tallies, a glimpse into everyday life and administration. From above, the city forms a concentric, ordered pattern radiating from the pyramids, with its layout aligned with the geometry of the Great Pyramid. The revelation that enslaved people did not build the pyramids raises an even deeper question. If no one was forced into labor, what motivated tens of thousands to devote their lives to a project that would never belong to them? By the time Khufu ascended the throne around 2589 BC, the Nile River ruled the land. Each year, its waters rose with almost supernatural precision, submerging farmlands for months and destroying crops. During this idle season, the pharaoh saw opportunity, and Egypt's great building projects began. This was the corvée system, a state-directed enterprise that turned farmers into builders. In a world without trade, labor served as currency, and pyramid construction served as a form of national taxation. Every family owed the state a share of the workforce or goods, and in return, workers received food and shelter. Whenever the Nile rose, thousands left their villages to labor at Giza. Evidence of this system survives in ration lists and storage depots. Workers were provided staples, bread, beer, fish, onions, and meat. Papyrus records from the Old Kingdom show daily allowances reaching 10 loaves of bread and 2 jugs of beer, with extra portions of fish or cuts of beef for overseers and artisans. A remarkable parallel comes from Deir el-Medina, a later workers' village near Thebes. There, payrolls on ostraca record rations, days off, disputes, and even strikes, the first recorded labor protests. At Giza, the system operated on the same principle. The royal economy supported workers, while families at home received food, and each man's labor was an offering to Ma'at, the cosmic balance maintaining the universe. Khufu's reign redefined the social contract between ruler and people. To modern eyes, the Great Pyramid may appear a monument to one man, but to ancient Egyptians, it was a covenant between heaven and earth. The pharaoh was Horus incarnate. Working for him was laboring for a divine being. The logistics were staggering. A rotating workforce of 10 to 20,000 men required millions of pounds of grain and livestock annually. Archaeologists have found cattle and sheep remains, indicating that at least 20 cows and 30 goats were slaughtered daily. According to zoo archaeologist Richard Redding, supporting this consumption required hundreds of villages, herders, farmers, millers, and transport workers, all part of a national supply network. A papyrus from Wadi El Jarf, the Red Sea port, records the diary of Merer, an official overseeing limestone transport from Tura to Giza. His meticulous logs of teams, schedules, and deliveries read like a modern logistics manual, and even mention Khufu by name, the only contemporary record of the pharaoh who built the Great Pyramid. The project extended far beyond Giza. Quarries in Aswan, copper mines in Sinai, and cedar imports from Lebanon reveal a civilization operating on a global scale long before globalization existed. Life in the workers' city was harsh. Skeletons show repetitive strain, crushed vertebrae, and hernias from hauling stones, and average life expectancy hovered around 35. Yet these injuries often healed cleanly, evidence of care and attention. But housing 20,000 workers was just one problem. Feeding them, and most importantly, moving millions of multi-ton blocks from quarries to the construction site required an ancient superhighway. The mountain-moving waters. In May of 2024, a team of scientists published a landmark discovery in the journal Communications, Earth and Environment, resolving one of the oldest and most persistent mysteries of the ancient world. For more than 4,000 years, the pyramids of Giza have stood in a silent desert that made their construction seem almost superhuman. How did ancient builders transport more than 2 million stone blocks, some weighing well over a dozen tons, across what appeared to be a vast, waterless expanse of sand? The answer had been hiding in plain sight, buried just beneath the surface. Using radar satellite technology that can penetrate layers of dry sediment, researchers mapped the ghost of a once mighty river. They identified a long-lost branch of the Nile, which they named the Ahramat branch, Ahramat meaning pyramids in Arabic, that once flowed directly along the western edge of the Giza Plateau. The pyramids, it turns out, were not built in a remote desert. They were constructed on the banks of a vanished superhighway. This was no minor stream or seasonal runoff. The satellite data revealed a substantial river branch, stretching roughly 40 miles in length and, in places, as wide as 7 football fields. Its channel ran between 1.5 and 6 miles west of the modern Nile, cutting through the precise corridor of desert where no fewer than 31 pyramids were constructed over a span of roughly 1,000 years. This single geographical revelation explains what once seemed like baffling site choices. The builders did not drag massive stones across endless dunes out of some perverse tolerance for hardship. They selected the most rational location available, a stable limestone plateau positioned beside a deep, navigable waterway. The desert landscape seen today is a climatic illusion. In the age of the pharaohs, Giza would have resembled a vibrant, working river port. The discovery of the Ahramat branch reframes pyramid construction from a logistical nightmare on land into a triumph of hydraulic planning. Transporting enormous granite blocks from quarries in Aswan, more than 500 miles to the south, would have been inconceivable using sledges alone. The same applies to the fine white limestone casing stones quarried east of the Nile. As Egyptologist Dr. Suzanne Onstein, a co-author of the study, explained, these massive stones were far easier to float downstream than to haul across sand. The Ahramat branch served as a natural conveyor belt. Stone blocks were loaded onto heavy cargo barges, carried north by the Nile's current, and then steered into this western branch, which delivered them almost directly to the construction sites. The river, quite literally, did the heavy lifting. Every major pyramid complex is linked to the Nile Valley by a long, elevated causeway. For decades, these causeways appeared to terminate inexplicably in open desert. Their purpose was unclear. The new research revealed that they run in straight, deliberate lines, pointing directly toward the buried banks of the Ahramat branch. They connect the river's edge to the pyramid temples themselves. At the river end of each causeway stood a valley temple. Archaeologists now understand these were not merely ceremonial structures. They functioned as active harbors. Stone-laden boats docked here. Crews swarmed the quays, unloading blocks onto wooden sledges. The causeway then served as the final overland route, a short, engineered ramp leading straight into the construction zone. Each pyramid complex was, in effect, a purpose-built port facility. In 2013, archaeologists working at a Red Sea port known as Wadi El Jarf uncovered fragments of papyrus belonging to an official named Merer. These documents, dating to the 27th year of Pharaoh Khufu's reign, are the oldest known administrative records in the world. They describe the daily operations of a crew of roughly 40 men assigned to the specific task of transporting the polished white limestone casing stones for the Great Pyramid. Merer's diary recounts how his team loaded the stones at the Tura quarries on the eastern bank of the Nile, ferried them across the river, and then entered a network of canals and basins referred to as the entrance to the Lake of Khufu. This was not the open Nile, but a man-made harbor system, engineered waterways dredged to extend the river's reach directly to the Giza plateau, likely feeding into the Ahrimat branch. Merer notes that his crew completed this delivery run 2 or 3 times every 10 days, an industrial-scale supply chain operating with relentless regularity. What then became of this essential river? Why did it vanish, leaving the pyramids isolated in sand? The answer lies in long-term climate change. When the Great Pyramids were constructed, the region was emerging from the African humid period, a time when North Africa was significantly greener and wetter. The Nile carried greater volume, sustained by stronger monsoon systems, and spread across its floodplain in multiple branches. Around 4,200 years ago, a severe drought set in. Without sufficient water to sustain its secondary channels, the Ahrimat branch began to fail. Gradually, it filled with wind-blown sand and flood-borne silt. Over centuries, the river dwindled, disappeared, and was entombed beneath the desert it once sustained. The pyramid's most critical partner in construction was erased from the landscape, taking the secret of their logistics with it for more than 3 millennia. So, the mystery of how they moved the mountains has a compelling answer. They let the water do the work. Yet, for every mystery solved, a dozen more deepen. The wonders of the pyramids. In 2017, an international team of scientists working on the Scan Pyramids project made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. They had identified a massive hidden space deep within the Great Pyramid of Khufu, a cavity they referred to simply as the Big Void, using a sophisticated technique known as muon tomography, which relies on cosmic rays from space to see through stone much like an ultra-powerful X-ray. The team detected a void measuring at least 100 feet in length. To put that scale into perspective, it is roughly the length of a commercial airliner, suspended in silence above the Grand Gallery for more than 4,500 years. The purpose of this enormous space remains entirely unknown. It is far too large to function as a conventional relieving chamber designed to divert structural weight. Its smooth, horizontal geometry suggests deliberate architecture rather than a natural fracture. For now, it simply exists, a vast, unseen volume, a plane-sized question mark embedded in the heart of the most famous monument of the ancient world. This discovery was part of a revolution in the way the pyramids are explored. For centuries, uncovering their secrets required invasive excavation, a process that risked irreparable damage to the structures themselves. Today, teams like Scan Pyramids, a collaboration among universities, engineering institutes, and Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities, employ non-invasive tools such as cosmic ray muon detectors, infrared thermography, and 3D laser scanning to peer inside solid stone without disturbing it. In 2023, the same team announced another precise and carefully measured discovery: a corridor-shaped void approximately 30 feet long, concealed behind the ancient, weathered blocks of the pyramid's original northern entrance. These findings are presented with deliberate restraint. Researchers refer to them as voids or anomalies, not secret chambers or treasure vaults. Their data and methodologies are published for scrutiny, debate, and verification. This slow, methodical process stands in stark contrast to dramatic press conferences. It is the real, painstaking work of scientific discovery. The mysteries do not end with the Great Pyramid. In the Pyramid of Pharaoh Sahura, built more than a century after Khufu's reign, a German-Egyptian restoration team used advanced 3D LiDAR scanning to map deteriorating interior passages in remarkable detail. The resulting data revealed a surprising truth: the pyramid's blueprint was incomplete. The scans uncovered 8 previously unknown storage chambers hidden within the masonry, their existence erased from historical memory after their ceilings collapsed and filled with debris in antiquity. This discovery did not upend history with speculation. It quietly corrected the archaeological record, demonstrating that even well-studied monuments still conceal tangible secrets, waiting for the right technology to expose them. At Giza, additional technologies are beginning to reveal what lies beneath the sand. In the Western Cemetery, where high-ranking officials were buried, ground-penetrating radar has detected a curious L-shaped structure buried roughly 6 feet below the surface. Beneath it, The signals suggest a deeper hollow space. This could mark the entrance to a significant, undiscovered tomb. But archaeologists are careful to emphasize that radar alone is not proof. Only meticulous manual excavation can confirm such a find. A similar caution applies at the Pyramid of Menkaure, Khufu's grandson. Preliminary scans have identified unusual air-filled spaces behind the polished casing stones on the pyramid's eastern face. Some researchers speculate that this may indicate a second sealed entrance dating back to antiquity. But speculation remains the claim. In archaeology, the journey from a signal on a screen to a confirmed discovery is long, deliberate, and grounded in physical evidence. Thanks for watching. Now check out the videos popping up on screen for more unbelievable stories.